Hi and welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to be reviewing the sixth episode of Strange New Worlds, which was called Lost in Translation, in which Bill Murray visits Japan and in which the Enterprise is assigned to oversee a mining station that's trying to collect deuterium.
Petrol
station in space, essentially. The Enterprise decides that they're going to refuel themselves first by using the Bussard collectors. And after which Uhura starts to hear and see some strange things. So it's kind of a horror-themed episode.
Yeah.
So Pike gets promoted temporarily to Fleet Captain. I thought they could have done more with that because I barely saw any ships.
Yeah.
Because they were all like this big on the screen and it didn't really show him doing very much of anything with them. I kind of feel like they missed an opportunity a bit there. Yeah. It didn't really sell it to me, but let's be real, it was there for to slot into canon, wasn't it? It's purely there for his first meeting with Kirk, because Kirk said that he met Pike when he was fleet captain, so they needed to get that in. It's tenuous, but at least they tried.
Yeah.
So I'll give them a couple of points for that. We got to see the return of Hemmer, albeit in ghostly zombie form. Yeah. Just reinforced how dumb an idea it was them getting rid of him in the first place, because he was one of the best characters of Series 1. He shines here again. Such an idiotic decision. I love Hemmer. He's so great. And I suppose it was good to finally see him here. Seems a little bit strange. I felt like a lot of this episode was about saying goodbye to Hemmer from a few characters. Una is struggling with the grief of it as well. She's taken it out on Pelia, who's Hemmer's replacement. And so is Uhura. Feels a little bit strange that it's been so many episodes since. And it's not really come up, but I'll take what we can get, which is at least they've done it.
They've acknowledged it now.
At least they have acknowledged it. It would have been better way earlier. But I suppose they've just been getting on with it.
Yeah, instead and now they've been faced with it in a situation and all
they've been doing the anti-discovery. They haven't been sitting there crying about it. So they've been just getting on with their work and trying to be Starfleet officers.
Professionals.
Worth a try. We saw, as mentioned, the return of Kirk. This time it's the prime timeline Kirk, as played by Jim Carrey from the Saturday Night Live sketch. Are you getting vibes of it? I am a little bit.
I am.
I don't mind him, but he does look a little bit like Jim Carrey to the point where I can't unsee it quite, but
he's doing a good job with it.
He's doing okay with it. He's likeable. I don't know how I felt about Uhura thinking he was flirting. For a minute, I thought, are they going down the route of, Kirk's a womanizer again? But he did deny it.
Yeah, he did point blank say, no, I was just trying to be a friend. Yeah. And
he ended up being quite a good friend to her.
Yeah.
Even when she attacks him, thinking that he's an evil doppelganger of herself, having another hallucination. To view the elephant in the room, this was Night Terrors, wasn't it, from The Next Generation?
Yes, it was a couple of that.
Almost every way. Like, I did read on Twitter that the writer was obsessed with the Bussard collectors, which leads me to think he's probably seen Night Terrors, which is let's just hope it's a form of flattery and not just an out and out rip off. I didn't think it was as good as Night Terrors, but
no, it had its moments, and like I say, it was a good pace.
It had a good pace. It had some good sequences. Nothing comes close to. There's a bit in Night Terrors that I remember watching as a kid, and it freaked me the hell out. You probably already know what I'm going to say. It's the bit with Beverly in the morgue, where all the bodies just sit up. I absolutely shit myself as a kid, and even now I watch it and I'm like, I don't like that scene at all. There's something about it. I think it probably reminds me a bit, because they're all in the polythene body bags, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think it reminds me of Nightmare on Elm Street, the beginning of where Tina's being dragged. I think that's the image it gave me, and that was creepy as hell. So we got to see the return of Tri-Chess.
Yes.
Tri-level chess. I quite like the scene with Spock and Chapel playing it. I felt like Spock was kind of written like Spock.
Yeah, it was flirty without being full on. I think we got.
I thought that was way better handled.
I actually accepted it more than the relationship. I was like, oh, okay,
that's exactly what I thought. I was watching it saying, if this had been handled this way in the previous one, where Spock is behaving a bit more like himself, admittedly, he's digging into some of his human emotions a bit, but he still felt like Spock, which I didn't feel he felt like Spock the previous week.
again, their little conversation of they're talking about obviously their relationship,
Yes.
and then obviously it's your move, and it's like their banter of their conversation is juxtaposed with the chess.
Yeah, I thought that was a really well done scene, and like you said, I didn't hate it, and I've really disliked a lot of the stuff to do with Spock and Chapel.
This relationship,
but the way that was written, I was like, oh, if it'd been done like this, I don't think I'd have anywhere near as many issues with it. I thought that was handled.
Subtle.
It was subtle. Yeah, that's it. Spot on. And I felt like both the characters were behaving like themselves. Yeah, exactly. So I really quite liked that scene, which I was surprised at. Which, as soon as I saw them sat down playing, I was like, oh, here we go again. And it got to the end of the scene, and I thought, oh, that was quite good, actually. And we got to see a little more of Kirk's knowledge of chess. Again, foreshadowing playing Spock
he looked
in
over
the original series.
Straight over, and he's like a teammate,
which I like that. I like they've built that up. They're not playing Kirk off to be an idiot. No, that's also well done. I like that.
He's a younger Kirk, so much as he is... We're thinking, Captain Kirk. He is Lieutenant Kirk at this point. So
yes, he is, and he butts heads with his brother,
which I thought was quite fun. Because brothers do butt heads, and the way that was handled as well. And it was like
one being threatened by the other's ambition, essentially, wasn't it?
And the fact that George has got his dad's name,
We got a mention of the Kelvin.
Yeah,
little shiver down the spine. Tried not to be sick, but it was okay. No, I don't mind the Kelvin too much. They weren't that bad.
Kelvin was the...
It was. It's originally in it. I just mean every time I hear Kelvin now, I can't disassociate it from the reboot with the Kelvin timeline. But no, I don't mind the reboot ones, other than
your favourite one,
Into Darkness. We don't speak of it. Around this point, we find that there is a saboteur on board.
The station.
Pelia on the station.
On the station.
On the station. Pelia uncovers it. Goes against what Una says. Initially, I was a bit a subordinate, disobeying orders from, and I thought, oh, here we go again. But they did address it.
Yeah.
She gets hauled up over it later on, and I thought, okay, fair enough, I'll take that.
Out of everyone, Pelias doing it, I sort of can accept more because she's been around for
it made sense.
Donkey's years.
She's far older than the officer.
So she's seen a lot and done a lot. So I can sort of accept it more from her because she is an older...
Oh, no, it's not her insubordination. It was the reaction from Una.
Yeah.
That she just took it. That I was more like, this isn't really... But then later on in the episode, she did take her to one side and she did haul her up over it.
In the moment, she's going, we actually have got a saboteur. I suppose she's going to react to that.
Yeah. I thought it was handled quite well this time, And again, no complaints. So that's something, again... from previous ones I've not liked, that I thought was handled far better. this week. So well done there. So in the interactions between Kirk and Uhura, they had quite a nice conversation about death. And we got to explore a little bit of Uhura's past. I thought that was a pretty good way of doing it as well. And a good scene for Kirk, really.
Yeah, it was handled really
good
well.
Look into him.
He was very much supportive.
Yes.
Which, again, shows off that he's not just a womanising...
Yeah.
Which is just a trope of what people think of Star Trek, the original series, and he's really not a womanizer.
No. I like the handling between him and La'an. I'm only just thinking about it now that she doesn't avoid him, but there's a sense of she's trying to distance a little bit.
I think that whole thing...
And I go a little bit that she's a little bit jealous that he's spending time with Uhura. Yes, just a smidgen of that. She
stops her in the corridor and she's like, oh, you're talking to... and there's that sort of thing.
But again, she handled it professionally and didn't feel like she was ever going out of character. I felt like that was exactly what she would do. Quite well written. Again, I think whoever wrote this one has got a good grasp of the characters. Yeah. Well, that's one thing, he does refer to her by her last name.
Yeah.
Which is a potential future problem. Given the way they've been doing things this series, though, I think that's something that they're going to stitch that up with a bow, I think. I don't think it's going to be left open.
I think something's going to happen to her that potentially, I don't know, erases her from everything. Something like that. It's the only way I can think they can get around what they do now. Or they've just thought, sod it.
Well, so far I've noticed that everything that I've had a bit of an issue with has come back up later on and been resolved to a point where I'm like, okay, it's not as egregious anymore. So I'm thinking that's how it's going to go. I don't think it's not something they can forget about. I don't think it's right in the face.
It's like if you go to Space Seed when they meet Khan, and it's like Spock's like, oh, and I've searched the history records, and this is
something has got to happen.
You're not going to be like, oh, actually, I forgot about that crew when I hung around for like 6-7 years. And, knew all about Khan and
So Uhura manages to uncover who the saboteur is, and it's someone that is experiencing similar symptoms to her. We got not the best fight scene I've ever seen. I may have laughed a little bit at some of it. It just looked a little bit stagey. Like, okay, now you grab me here and throw me here. It didn't feel convincing at all. And it's revealed that there are aliens in the deuterium, and that the Enterprise has been killing them.
Between them collecting it and the station being built.
So they're sending Uhura and the Saboteur images of death, essentially, to try and convey the message that that's what's happening to them.
So I suppose now I think about it, hence the title, Lost in Translation.
Lost in Translation.
Yeah, it does make sense now, actually.
It does a little.
It,
but the Saboteur is too far gone, isn't he? And he ends up detonating. He blows something up on the refinery in an attempt to stop it, and Kirk and Uhura only just escape, don't they?
It's in the nacelle.
Is it in the cell?
The cell control room that they're in.
It was nice to see the inside of the nacelles.
So I think back to Enterprise, and they could walk the entire nacelle.
Yes.
Whereas now it's just a room.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I really like seeing inside there, yeah.
Yeah, I like seeing inside it. So they work out that I thought it was a bit tenuous that they can't just shut down the station. It's impossible to stop once it's started. I thought, really?
Well, I suppose it's like some kind of reactor type thing. I suppose it's got to be shut down
gradually. I suppose. So they end up blowing it up, so we get a nice big explosion at the end, which... it works. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I don't hate it either. It's there, and we get a final goodbye from Hemmer, which I laughed.
Oh, did you?
I did. The way that it just has him standing there smiling and pretty much almost waving as he disappears as a ghost, and I just thought I love Hemmer, but it was so corny. I literally sat there and went. As soon as it did it, it looked like something from the Hallmark Channel, man. It was just, I don't know if it's just the sight of seeing Hemmer's sickly smiling that just didn't.
Well, yeah,
it didn't work. It didn't really work for me, but it was nice to see a bit more background of a bit more scenes as well between him and Uhura. I get the impression she's a bit like his protege.
Well, they've got a bit more. She's looking at the videos, on the pad on the episode, and like she's got it all done, and she has a conversation with Pelia about.
Yes,
and we find out that Hemmer studied. In one of Pelia's classes.
That's right, yeah. I like the fact that she made out that he was one of her star pupils and then was like, no, I'm just lying, he wasn't. Yeah. He got better. I like that. I like the fact that for once someone wasn't, because they're always the star pupil, aren't they? If it's a previous character, they were always the best in my class. I always remember them. It was nice to see someone say, actually, no, they really weren't. Not when I knew them. They just got better afterwards. I'm like, okay, I like that. We got a bit of a party, and it wasn't pop music like Discovery. They were listening to old-style Earth music, which gave me flashbacks to Next Generation again. And altogether, I'm just thinking the Enterprise is just more cultured.
Yeah.
Is Discovery actually like the Cerritos? It's just the ship that no one...
wants to be.
Full of people no one likes. Just go out there with your weird spore drive and blow yourselves up, maybe.
I don't pick on the Cerritos. Oh, that's quite harsh to the Cerritos.
I like the Cerritos. I do. They don't cry as much. If Night Terrors had never happened, I would really like this episode. But it doesn't change the fact that Night Terrors did happen. And if I was going to watch an episode on this theme, I would watch Night Terrors, not this one.
Yeah,
to be honest.
And I think in fairness, then they were ticking off a genre. Like they've seemed to be going through them.
There's something we've not commented on. Like the biggest thing in this entire episode, we haven't mentioned at all. Kirk meeting Spock. So I thought that was actually handled quite well. I like the lingering handshake.
Yes.
I didn't hate it. I was like expecting to.
There was sort of a moment of them, the handshake, and they sort of look at each other, and I'm like, it's almost like they've got a connection there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's what I mean. There's that unsaid feeling of mutual respect that I got there somehow. Straight away that there was just something. Yeah, I really liked it. So do you have a rating on this one?
I'm going to give it 3.5, close to 4. I say 3.75.
Yeah.
Because it was strong, it was solid, it was definitely above average.
Yeah.
Nobody sort of fumbled with anything, I don't think.
No, not really, no.
It did what it said on the tin.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to end up going with a 3.
Yeah.
Mainly because I love Night Terrors, so I've got more of a bias straight off the bat. So Night Terrors is one of my favourite Next Generation episodes. So it's kind of nice to see an homage. And it's not the first time Star Trek's done that. I mean, Enterprise remade episodes of Voyager. So if you could give us a like or a subscribe, that would help us out immensely. And hopefully we'll see you next week for the next one.
Long and prosper.